It was 11:51 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my condo in Austin, looking over some data models for work. My phone lit up on the desk. It wasn't a call. It was a group text from my mother. Michelle, back in Beacon Hill. I read the words. They didn't even feel real. Jenna, after our talk, we've had a family discussion. We've agreed. You are no longer part of this family. We are proceeding without you. I just stared at the glowing blue bubble. Proceeding. Before I could even process the word, a new notification popped up. A small, red heart reaction appeared on the message. It was from my sister, Kayla. That was it. The final cut. I didn't cry. I didn't text back. Why I didn't even feel that hot. Acidic burn of anger. Instead, it was a feeling I knew well from my job. It was clarity. The kind of cold, perfect clarity you get when a complex data model finally clicks into place. The moment you see the signal in the noise was the last 10 years of my life. The signal was that 11:51 p.m. text. So I did what a data scientist does. I didn't have an emotional breakdown. I ran on audit. I opened my laptop. The glow in my dark Austin condo felt clinical. It was 12 minutes after my mother had textually excised me from the family. First, I logged into the Prescott Family Fund. This was a joint account my mother had guilt-tripped me into opening years ago. For emergencies. I was the only one who ever deposited. She was the only one who withdrew. I looked at the balance, $18,200. I clicked transfer. I moved every last cent into my private savings account. The emergency, I figured, was here. Second, I logged into my American Express portal. My mother, Michelle, loved her supplementary platinum card. She loved the status. She loved the airport lounges. She loved that I paid the bill. I clicked account services. Then cancel supplementary card. The system asked, "Are you sure?" I clicked confirm. The digital card disappeared from the account. Third, I logged into the phone provider. All three of them, me, Michelle, and Kayla, were on my family plan. I clicked manage lines. I ported my own number to a new, individual account. Then I clicked cancel plan. A pop-up warned me about early termination fees. I clicked accept. Finally, I went to the utility provider for the Beacon Hill house. The gas, the electric, the water, all of them were in my name. I had put them in my name 5 years ago when I had to co-sign the mortgage to stop the bank from foreclosing. They needed my credit, my name, to keep the lights on. I found the schedule service disconnection page. I selected the earliest possible date, 48 hours from now. I closed my laptop. I looked at the clock. It was 12:03 a.m. In 12 minutes, I had surgically removed myself from the financial architecture of their lives, the house of cards they lived in. The one I had been holding up was about to feel the full force of gravity. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I felt balanced. This wasn't revenge. It was an accounting. To understand what I did, you have to understand my family. Or at least, the idea of my family. My mother, Michelle, and my sister, Kayla. Live in Beacon Hill, Boston. It's a world of old brick, old money, and even older names. They don't just live there, they perform it. Their entire identity is built on this illusion of Prescott legacy. I'm the black sheep, the one who left for the new money tech world of Austin. I'm a data scientist. I believe in code, in numbers, in verifiable truth. They believe in appearances. For years, I was the silent investor in their performance. I was the unseen, unacknowledged backer of the Prescott illusion. That 12:03 a.m. audit wasn't a snap decision. It was the result of a decade of data entry. I have a spreadsheet. I call it the ledger. It details the $350,000 I've sent them. The quiet transfers to cover the Beacon Hill property taxes, the loans that were never repaid, the country club dues, paid. So my mother could still have lunch at the right table. The mortgage shortfalls I covered every few months, so the bank wouldn't come calling. It details the $45,000 I sent Kayla last year as seed money for her influencer startup, an agency that, as far as I can tell, has produced nothing but $3,000 brunches and a lot of Instagram selfies. It details the $12,000 antique watch I paid for. A family heirloom my mother insisted Kayla had to have for her 25th birthday. I just kept paying. I paid to stop the weeping. Guilt-laced phone calls. I paid to avoid the accusations that I was cold or ungrateful or had forgotten where I came from. I paid, I thought, to keep the peace. But as I sat there in the silence of my apartment, I realized it wasn't peace I was paying for. It was a subscription. And I finally understood why I let it go on for so long. I was caught in a trap of financial enmeshment. It's a textbook psychological tactic, common in families like mine. It's where love is made conditional on your utility. Any attempt you make to set a boundary, to say no, isn't heard as a financial decision. It's framed as an act of emotional betrayal. Every check I wrote wasn't a gift. It was a blood tax. It was a payment to avoid the accusation of being a bad daughter. A payment to purchase just a few more weeks of their conditional the Blakes' paper-thin love. I wasn't a daughter. I was their primary asset. And I had just filed for my own liberation. I went to bed and slept for 8 hours. I woke up to the Texas sun, made coffee, and looked at my phone. It was a wildfire. 34 missed calls, 19 texts, a dozen voicemails. The first texts were from Kayla. They started around 7 a.m. Boston time, right when she would have been trying to buy her morning $5 coffee. Jenna, what did you do? My card was declined. The one for my business account, this isn't funny. A minute later, Jenna, the internet is off at the house. Mom is furious. Are you insane? Turn it back on. Another, I can't believe you. You're being so childish. I have meetings. I need the Amex. Call me. Now. Then, an email from my mother. Michelle. It was not an apology. It was a command. The subject line read, "Your immediate attention required." The email itself was a masterpiece of narcissistic rage, cloaked in the language of disappointment. Jenna, you have created an embarrassing and chaotic mess. Your childish tantrum is beneath you. And frankly, it is beneath this family. You have until noon today to rectify the situation and restore the accounts. Then, you will call us to discuss your behavior. And then, the final, public escalation. A friend from high school sent me a screenshot. It was from my mother's public Facebook page. She had posted an old, filtered photo of herself and Kayla, clinking champagne glasses. The caption read, "It's a sad day when a child forgets the family who gave them everything. We are just praying for her clarity and hoping she finds her way back." The post was already full of sympathetic comments from her Beacon Hill friends, telling her how strong she was. I read the texts. I read the email. I looked at the Facebook post, and I didn't feel a shred of guilt. This is what I finally understood. They weren't just angry about the money. They were horrified that the illusion was crumbling. My mother and sister suffer from the power delusion of perceived status. Their entire identity wasn't built on achievement, or character, or even actual wealth. It was built on the memory of wealth. It was built on the zip code, the country club, the Prescott name. They felt entitled to any resource that would protect that illusion, including my salary, my credit. and my name. They weren't angry that they had lost a daughter. They were furious that their primary funding source had been shut down. I wasn't their family. I was the unseen scaffolding holding up their collapsing facade. And I had just kicked it out from under them. Their panic wasn't sadness. It was the cold, raw terror of people who had never built anything of value. Realizing the person they were mining was finally, completely gone, I ignored the texts. I blocked the numbers. I set up an email filter that sent every message from my mother and sister directly into a folder labeled evidence. I did not engage. I did not argue. The time for emotional reactions was over. That 11:51 p.m. text wasn't an invitation to a fight. It was a breach of contract, and I was going to treat it as such. I went to work. I led my team meeting. I ran my data models. And during my lunch break, I didn't eat. I made a call. I didn't call a family therapist. I called Elizabeth Thorne. Elizabeth Thorne is a forensic litigator in Boston. She's the kind of lawyer corporations hire when they need to find out exactly where the money went, and they want it back with interest. She's ruthless. She's precise. And she hates messy emotions. She was perfect. We had a video call. She was exactly as I expected, sharp, impeccably dressed, with eyes that looked like they could audit a spreadsheet from 50 feet away. Ms. Thorne, I started. Thank you for your time. I'll be brief. I'm not interested in a family therapy session. I am interested in accountability. For the last 10 years, I have been the sole financial support for my mother and sister in Boston. Under the guise of familial obligation, I have documentation for approximately $350,000 in transfers, loans, and direct payments. I continued. Last night, they formally disowned me. I have since severed all informal financial ties. Now, I want to formalize this separation and explore my legal options for recovering the $350,000 I have documented. Elizabeth Thorne listened. She didn't interrupt. She just steepled her fingers, her gaze fixed on me. When I was done, she nodded once. Understood. Ms. Hayes, I appreciate your clarity. This is not a family dispute. This is a debt recovery action. Your emotional justification is noted, but it is legally irrelevant. Your spreadsheet, however, is everything. Her voice was crisp, like cold air. Here's what we'll do. I will draft a formal demand letter. It will be calm, factual, and lethal. It will outline the total sum, referencing your documentation. We will give them 30 days to propose a repayment plan. If they fail to respond, or if they respond with the emotional manipulation I expect they will, we will file a suit. We will place a lien on the Beacon Hill property. My mother will post on Facebook again. I said, thinking of the praying for her post. Let her, Elizabeth said with the faintest hint of a smile. In a civil fraud case, public declarations of a false narrative are admissible as evidence of intent. Let her type. You, meantime, will not speak to them. You will not text them. All communication goes through me. Am I clear? Crystal, I said. Good, she said. I'll begin a preliminary asset review immediately and have the demand letter sent by 5 p.m. today. I hung up. I had just taken the $350,000 of guilt, anger, and resentment and converted it into a single, actionable legal case. The battle had begun. Elizabeth Thorne called back 6 hours later. Her voice was different. The professional warmth was gone. It was flat, cold, and sharp, like a scalpel. Jenna, she said. No, Ms. Hayes, I need you to listen to me very carefully. This is no longer a debt recovery. This is a criminal case. I gripped the edge of my desk. My office, with its clean lines and dual monitors, suddenly felt like a sterile box. I couldn't breathe in. What do you mean? Criminal. The $45,000 startup loan for Kayla's agency, Elizabeth said. I found it. It wasn't a loan from you, Jenna. It was a high-risk business loan from a private lender in Boston. And your mother, Michelle. She forged your signature on a personal guarantee. The words just hung in the air. Forged? A personal guarantee. I felt the blood drain from my face. I'm a data scientist. I understand risk. A personal guarantee is a blank check. It's an act of total, blind trust. Or, in this case, an act of calculated, devastating betrayal. It gets worse, Elizabeth said, and my stomach clenched. A forger needs collateral to back up the guarantee. The lender wouldn't just accept a signature. What? What collateral? Your mother pledged your entire portfolio of vested stock options at your tech firm. I couldn't speak. It was as if she had reached across the country from Beacon Hill into my Austin office and put a gun to the head of my entire career. My stock options weren't just money. They were my work, my late nights, my value, my escape. They were the very thing that made me independent from her. And she had used them as a sacrificial lamb to fund my sister's delusion. The loan is in default. Jenna. Elizabeth's voice cut through the fog. Kayla's agency hasn't made a payment in 3 months. The lender has initiated proceedings to seize the collateral. They are coming for your assets. This wasn't just theft. This was a landmine. This was an attempt to burn down the new life I had built. Just to keep their old, rotting one warm. I wasn't the black sheep. I was the fatted calf. And they had just led me to the slaughter. I was staring at my screen, my mind racing, trying to calculate the damage, and when a new email pinged my inbox. The sender was from a prestigious Boston law firm I didn't recognize. The subject line was 3 words that stopped my heart. Urgent, the Prescott Family Trust. Self-sufficiency audit. I opened it. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from a strange, cold vibration. The email was not from a lawyer. It was from him, Richard Prescott, my grandfather, the family patriarch who had supposedly retired to a quiet life in London a decade ago, the man my mother always spoke of as a lovely but irrelevant memory. He was, it turned out, neither lovely nor irrelevant. The email was short. It was brutal. Jenna, I have been alerted by my auditors of a default action against a trust beneficiary, you. This default threatens the trust standing. As executor, I am invoking the self-sufficiency audit clause. I have not seen this clause used in my lifetime. I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't know he was the executor. I didn't know there was an audit clause. The email continued. The trust was not established to fund illusions or subsidize the parasitic. I arrive from London tomorrow. You will be at the Beacon Hill property at 10 a.m. You will provide me with a full and transparent accounting of all financial transfers related to your mother and your sister. And you will explain this default. The 2 prongs of the trap had just sprung, the legal one, and the one I never even knew existed. The one that held the family's legacy in its fist. My mother and sister hadn't just committed a crime. They had woken the dragon, and he was on his way. The legal battle wasn't a battle at all. It was a slaughter. Elizabeth Thorne's emergency injunction, combined with the evidence of the forged guarantee, was a kill shot. The lender, facing a massive lawsuit, immediately dropped their claim against my stock options and turned their full attention to Michelle. And then, there was my grandfather, Richard Prescott, the executor. Once he saw the full accounting, my spreadsheet, The forged loan documents. The default notices he acted with a speed that terrified me. The self-sufficiency audit was complete. He didn't just freeze Michelle and Kayla out of the trust. He systematically dismantled the entire illusion. The Beacon Hill house, which was legally owned by the trust, was immediately put on the market to cover the debts they had incurred. The story jumps to 2 weeks later. I was in my Austin apartment, reviewing a data sprint. The intercom buzzed. I glanced at the security screen. It was Michelle. She was in my lobby. Having flown coach, she looked small and lost, like a ghost haunting the wrong building. I buzzed her up, my heart a cold. Steady drum. I opened my door, but only as far as the security chain would allow. She came down the hall. This wasn't the proud, icy matriarch of Beacon Hill. This was a wreck. Her hair was unkempt. Her eyes were red and puffy. She wasn't wearing her pearls. She saw the chain and stopped. "Jenna," she whispered. Her voice was raw. "Jenna, please, you have to stop this." I said nothing. I just looked at her. "Richard is going to take the house," she sobbed, her hand coming up to rest on the door jamb. "He's selling the Beacon Hill house. Our home. He's selling it." She looked at me, her eyes disparity, searching for the old guilt, the old leverage. It was just a signature. Jenna, it was just a piece of paper. It was for Kayla. It was for the family. I didn't speak. I just reached back to my desk, picked up 2 folded documents, and slid them through the gap onto the floor of the hallway. "What is this?" she cried, fumbling to pick them up. "The first," I said, my voice perfectly flat, "is the court order for the sheriff's sale of the Beacon Hill property. It's being sold to repay the lender that you defrauded." She tore it open, her eyes scanning the legal text. "The second," I continued, "is a copy of the permanent restraining order filed by Elizabeth Thorne on my behalf. It forbids you and Kayla from contacting me, my place of work, or coming within 100 yards of my person." She let out a sound. It wasn't a word. It was a wail of pure, animalistic loss, of a creature that had just been fully and finally trapped. "You did this," she screamed, her hand balling into a fist. "You destroyed your family. You destroyed us." I looked at her, at the mask of rage and self-pity, and I felt nothing, just the cold, clean finality of a closed loop. "No," I said quietly, "you did." I slid the security chain back into place, and I closed the door. I heard her scream one more time, and then just sobs. And then, finally, the sound of the elevator. The house was sold. The $350,000 plus interest was recovered from the trust's assets, which Richard now controlled. Kayla's influencer agency was defunct, and I heard she was facing separate fraud charges from the lender. I said mi laptop. I opened the file I had kept for 10 years. The ledger, money owed. The spreadsheet was a monument to my pain, tracking every dollar, every act of guilt. I stared at the final number. For so long, I thought that spreadsheet was my burden, my proof, my weapon. But as I looked at it, I realized something. True family isn't a debt you owe. It isn't a ledger you have to balance. It's a bond you share. And that bond, the one I had been trying to buy, had simply never been there. Letting go of a bloodline isn't an act of betrayal. It's an act of self-preservation. It's giving yourself permission to find your own people, the ones who value you for who you are, not for what you can provide. I took a deep breath. I highlighted the file, and I hit delete. That night, for the first time in years, I slept through till morning.